Yeah, baby. We got some St. John's basketball in August to talk about. Our NCAA basketball beat writer for the Post, Zach Braziller, got a live look at the Red Storm scrimmage earlier today, and he's on now to talk all things Johnny. I got some excitement while talking about this team, Zach, because we're talking about a Red Storm team. First and foremost, what's up, bro? We're talking about a Red Storm team that has the bullseye on its back, not just a bullseye. You live tweeted throughout the scrimmage. We appreciate you for that. So, what's your first impression of the 2025 Red Storm?
First impression, they're incredibly deep. This is a team that's probably going to go at least 10. They have the makings of, to me, the best front court I've seen since I've started covering this program a decade ago. Returned Zuby Ejiofor, the potential Big East preseason player of the year. They brought in Dylan Mitchell, brought in Bryce Hopkins, a former All Big East player from Providence. They also have Ruben Prey back. Those four guys were really impressive today. The first team had Ejiofor, Mitchell, and Hopkins all together. Three guys who are athletic, can pass, rebound, rim protectors. It's a really impressive group up front that I think is probably going to be one of the best front courts in the country.
You cover this team. You're the guy. You're the plug when it comes to Red Storm basketball. So you kind of had an idea of what you wanted to watch going into the scrimmage. But was there anything that kind of threw you off, like lineup changes, tempo of the scrimmage? Is there anything that you kind of saw that you didn't expect, either good or bad?
There are a few things. First, the three forwards, playing together was not necessarily something I expected. Um, and then there's freshman Kelvin Odie. He's a four-star recruit, physical guard. He played with the starters, and Pitino raved about him. He's a guy, he can shoot, but his strength is he defends. He's physical. He gets to the rim. He's athletic. He's a guy that Pitino doesn't typically play freshmen a lot, but he was clear that he's going to play. I was really impressed by him. And then the last thing was, there wasn't like a real point guard. They were basically, Pitino said they're playing positionless basketball. And, Dylan Darling, the transfer from Idaho State, Ian Jackson, Ozias Sellers, another newcomer from Stanford. Those guys handled the ball the most, but there wasn't like one point guard. When someone got a defensive rebound, they were going out and they were going. It wasn't like look for the point guard. That to me is going to be a huge storyline of this team is, not necessarily having that one true point guard, but having a bunch of guys who are going to handle the ball, a bunch of guys who can initiate offense. And, that to me is going to be one thing really to watch is how does that work and can that be successful? Pitino said this is the way he thinks they can play they have so much talent and so many different athletic guys. And that's obviously going to be a fascinating thing to follow.
Yeah, I'm not going to question Rick Pitino when it comes to his style of basketball, how he wants to play, but that is something that I'm going to be hitting the refresh button on a lot when it comes to your articles because that is a storyline that I feel as though we're going to keep an eye on throughout the course of this season. We're talking about a Red Storm team that, again, like I say, they're it now. They're in the house. They got the city rocking. But I read somewhere that UConn St. John's could be the next big rivalry in college basketball. St. John's has won 39 of the 74 matchups that they've had, and that dates back to 1949. But when we talk historic rivalry, Zach, in NCAA basketball, I don't think anyone would mention Huskies Red Storm as a big-time rivalry. Fast forward to today, they're two basketball powerhouses with elite head coaches with huge personalities. Easily the best rivalry in the conference. But do you see St. John's UConn being the new UNC Duke for years to come?
I wouldn't go there, but I think the mid-season, yeah, I mean, the two games are going to be heavily anticipated. Both teams, are going to be preseason top 10, maybe preseason top 5. The two coaches don't exactly love each other. I know Hurley joked the other day that he's probably closer with Richard Pitino than Rick. They're obviously huge competitors, the two coaches. I think the rosters are pretty evenly matched. 2 years ago, UConn won a national title. They won the Big East. Last year, St. John's won the Big East, swept UConn. And now this year, I think it's going to be they're evenly matched teams. Obviously, different strengths, but I think on paper you would say they're probably two close games. And yeah, I mean, this year, in terms of conference play, Mark, they're two of the most anticipated games of the season when you just consider the coaches, the rosters, the expectations. It's a lot of fun. I mean, the last 2 years have been a lot of fun. These two teams have played, and I think this year is going to be even better.
Real quick, give me a way too early prediction for the 2025 St. John's basketball team.
All right, Bryce Hopkins will be the Big East Player of the Year and St. John's leading scorer.
Zach Braziller, love it. Thanks for hopping on, man.
All right, my pleasure.